Rob Williams is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter. Rob, the Whistler guy right now, Blake.
Antlers in the background. You know he's in Whistler.
You know you're in Whistler. When?
Yeah, right there for you.
Yeah.
Good
to hear your voice. Good to see you. We'll start with a deadline about nothing. When you sat here a week ago on this day, Rob, were you sitting there going, oh, the content, the clips, can't wait. And then all of a sudden, nothing.
I thought we were at least going to get a Phil Kessel signing. Like that was the baseline that I thought we were going to get. So to not get the Kessel signing. Now, when Kessel touched down, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, like the type of player he is, how old he is, how rusty he would surely be. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. The only thing that made sense was that if Tocchet and Rutherford and Alvin think he can help them, who knows them better than those guys? So that seemed to make a lot of sense to me. So so it became, and then all the reports seemed so positive about Kessel and the Canucks, and then so for that to not materialize, that really surprised me. So for content wise, that is the biggest blow, not having Phil Kessel content. So the sports editor in me was disappointed by that. But otherwise, to be honest, guys, like they made their big move, they made their big swing. Lindholm was their guy. It hasn't worked with them so far. I think that's the trouble, is that everyone is wanting them to make a big push to put themselves over the hump. And they made that move, and we're kind of still waiting for Lindholm to, turn into that guy that's worth giving up a first round pick and a prospect and Kuzmenko for. So
you're not a Lindholm truther, though? You don't believe that, he is doing at least the quiet things and being a reliable player, or are you thinking that'll come?
I think he is, but you don't give up that. That's like Teddy Bluger's job, right? They weren't thinking that they were going out to acquire a third line center that can, kill penalties. He's doing that, gives him a right-handed ace on the face-offs. That's valuable as well. And their penalty kill, of course, can use some help, but there needs to be more than what he's shown. And thus far we're still kind of waiting for that offensive flair to be added to the Canucks lineup. So I'm not giving up on him. I think he's still got lots of time. And if he sputters through the regular season and he's great in the playoffs, all will be forgiven. And I think it'll be a worthwhile move. But yeah, I wasn't waiting. I didn't think I think there's so much pressure on teams to make a splash at the deadline or just do something. And yeah, it'd be great if they could do something, but to be honest, they've Alvin's led the league in trades this year. It's not like they haven't made their moves. So what difference does it make if it's at the deadline or if it's before? So I don't think that's the be all end all for the Canucks. They've had this great season, and you stand pat at the deadline. I was fine with it.
Matt, he just called Lindholm Bluger, and I don't know if that's a bigger insult to Lindholm or to Bluger.
I was more fixated on the two do somethings and the royalty check that will be coming Jeff Patterson's way.
2 clips there for you, Grady.
Right exactly. Yeah. Send that straight to Jeff's media lawyer. Let's ask you the Tim Hortons poll question then. Who do you want in the first round here? Vegas, LA, Nashville? Don't care. Feel free to go off the board if you think Minnesota, St. Louis can make a run.
Yeah, I think you want to avoid one of those Pacific Division teams at all costs. I think that is the doomsday scenario is you have to play Vegas in round 1, and if even if you beat Vegas, you've got Edmonton waiting for you in round 2, right? But LA, I don't think is a good matchup for the Canucks either. They've got one of the best penalty kills in the NHL. I think that's something that threatens to really derail the Canucks. I think if the Canucks are going to go far in the playoffs, they need to have a great power play. I know it's sputtered a little bit of late, but that's going to be something I think they're going to need to have. So if you can play, take your pick of those Central Division teams. Nashville's had a nice season, but I think if one of Minnesota, St. Louis makes the playoffs, they're going to be on a bit of a heater, I think. So doesn't really matter. I think if I had my pick, I think I would say Minnesota, just because going back to the penalty kill thing, they don't have a good penalty kill. So if they can avoid giving up 10 goals in a game to them,
I was going to say,
I think they
Rob,
might do all right.
the most recent evidence against Minnesota is not great in the Canucks column, but I hear what you're saying. You were also messaging us about, and look, first time in the Stanley Cup playoffs for this city in 9 years. We know they made the bubble playoffs, but that was in Edmonton. We haven't seen it, experienced it, touched it, felt it since 2015. What do you think it's going to look like here? You think it's going to be the same old, and everything that we were accustomed to?
The city aesthetic. What's the playoff aesthetic look like?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot in the last couple of months. So, there's probably some, Gen Z fans out there that don't really remember what to do around.
Got to learn them.
Around playoff time, right? I do wonder what kind of bells and whistles the Canucks will be bringing out for this. They've had lots and lots of time to plan for it, right? The playoffs have been an inevitability for months now for the Canucks. So surely they, at Rogers Arena, they're going to be talking about different options. I haven't asked recently because I don't think they'll give me an answer, but 2 years ago I asked, when it seemed like every Canadian city had an outdoor viewing party, right? It wasn't just Toronto and Maple Leaf Square, but Calgary and Edmonton just had these, epic, viewing parties. Winnipeg had a really great one as well. And I asked if the Canucks were thinking about when and if and when they make the playoffs again, are they doing that? And they, a spokesperson for the team told me that, yeah, they had talked about that internally. They were talking about it in 2019, 2020, when, when COVID shut down the season. So they were talking about doing something earlier on in that season. And I think that there's, they have to do something, don't they? I think the trouble, obviously, doing it in Vancouver is people are going to go, "Oh, the riots, right?" And I think obviously you're not going to just open Georgia Street. I think you have to, contain it to a degree. But I think that it would look odd if the Canucks were the one, hockey city that didn't have some sort of outdoor viewing party. So I think, the parking lots across the street, I think, would be a natural for it. And yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think they should try it again. I mean, the 94 rioters are all over the age of 50 now, so they're too old to return to the stomping grounds.
Too creaky.
Yeah, too creaky. The 11 rioters are still spunky enough, but
I do wonder whether you do first round viewing parties. I wonder if that might be the round where you just say, okay, it's a nice to do, it's not a need to do. We've had a tortured history with this thing. Let's wait until it's commanded, as opposed to doing it voluntarily.
Something to keep in mind is starting 2 weeks early. Normally you'd say the first round, no, because of weather. Well, it's going to be late April for the first round. So weather-wise, it could be pretty good. And it's supposed to be a dry spring as well. So it could line up.
I do wonder what the mayor and the police chief, where they're
I'm sure they've got thoughts on it.
Because, this is something that is a political hot potato for them. Hey, I was going to ask you this. No chance they retire Towel Power, right? Towels will be back just because they have the statue with Roger.
Yep.
Right? But this big a gap would allow you to sort of
leave
move
it behind
on from a playoff custom.
But people love retro too. So.
Yeah. So what do you think? Towel Power back in all its glory?
I mean, if they don't bring it back, I think that would be a big mistake. I think the visual, I think the team loves the visual of, the team steps on the ice and there's towels going around Rogers Arena. So I do think that they bring that back. But yeah, I kind of wonder, it's just been so long since we've seen a playoff game. This is the longest gap we've ever had where there's just no playoff hockey at Rogers Arena or in Vancouver. So I just kind of wonder, are people gonna, what's going to change? Are they gonna introduce some new traditions? I remember the last time they were in the playoffs against against Calgary, they had like I think they stole it from the idea from Boston, where they would bring back like a former player to wave the towel pregame, and I thought that was really cool. I believe Stan Smeal did it. I know Kirk McLean did it for a game just to kind of whoop the crowd up into a frenzy.
That's the
So
problem. It's been co-opted in other markets. That's the only
Yeah.
problem with Towel Power. It's not ours anymore in Vancouver. So,
Well,
I don't know.
Steelers fans will tell you it wasn't ours to begin with.
Well, it was though. Ours
was
created
started
out of a natural
very true
case.
True.
It wasn't stolen at all.
No, true.
I think we need to bring back people bringing their own bath towels from home. Like that, like that's how it started, right? Like people
Oh.
brought their own towels to the rink. You're not loving that.
Wash them, please.
There's a hygiene element there, Williams, that I'm not particularly comfortable with. Guy swinging a big bath towel, God knows
Plus,
where it's been.
you spent $400 on a playoff ticket. Give me a damn towel.
Yeah, exactly. Give him I'm sure the towels. I'm sure the towels will be provided. Car flags.
I haven't seen many car flags.
No.
I don't know. Do people, are they still?
I don't think it's a
selling
thing.
those?
I don't think it's a thing
I
anymore.
don't think it's a thing.
I think that one might be shelved, but yeah, that's
So-
like
So, quick story on car flags. When I was working back east in our nation's capital, the Senators were in the playoffs. Car flags were all the rage. And one thing that became apparent was that these car flags on the highway would fly off. And you'd look at sort of the shoulders on the highway, and they were littered with car flags, not to mention some scary episodes with car flags flying back as you're, driving 100, 120 clicks. So my editor says, call the police, ask them if they're concerned about car flags as a safety hazard. So I call the cops and say, so I just did a drive of the highway and I counted 14 car flags that were in the median, and one flew off a car that I saw. Is this it? And the police officer gave me a very political answer, and then he said, off the record, he said to me, if you think that the police department is going to be shitting on the car flag,
Yeah, exactly.
think again, son. We can't afford to be anti-hockey team.
No,
At this
bad
time.
luck.
Yeah.
Bad luck. And we got no freeways here, really. So
No,
it's
exactly.
fine.
So it's a much better city in terms of our arterials and how we have planned it out for car flags. So we'll see them in April, and we'll see you next week, Rob Williams. Thanks for this.
that sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.